Hi, it's Dave here from London on the 14th of December with another COVID-19 update. Let's start with the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine as it's pronounced. Um, and the first person to have this vaccine was a 90-year-old, I think she's now 91 or soon to be 91, but 90 at the time, Margaret Keenan, and she was administered the vaccine on the 9th of December. At the moment, priority for the vaccine goes to over 80s, health and care workers. But the government has said it's expected to be some millions. How many, we don't know, but some millions of the vaccine available by Christmas. Now, this is only 10, 11 days away now, so we're not really sure what the government mean here or how many they mean. And again, priorities going to those people. So, but we're still waiting to find out when it's going to basically filter down to, I suppose, the general public, um, people that are not high risk or working in the health industry or with elderly people. So again, it's going to be week to week with the information we find out on the vaccine. Um, Once delivered and thawed out, the vaccine needs to be used within 3.5 days. I think this has caused some problems early on, and I mean it is still very early. But the fact that it has to be stored at minus 70 degrees Celsius has meant the rollout to care homes had been delayed, but is expected to go ahead by the end of this week. Um, so the vaccine, as I've said, it's all very new. It's been going less than a week. They managed to put this thing together in 10, 11 months, and it's week to week, day to day on what's going to change. With the vaccine, they certainly can't afford to waste any of it. So the fact that it has to be stored at minus 70 and thawed out and then used within 3.5 days is obviously very fine margins. Like I said, they really don't want to waste any of this stuff. So we're just waiting for more news on the vaccine, but so far so good on really, with the exception of the care homes, but so far so good with the over 80s and the health and the care workers. So we'll wait for more on that. Onto the COVID itself, cases are up 19.1% over the last 7 days from the previous week. That's after coming out of lockdown. Um, Expect a rise, especially at this time of year. People are going Christmas shopping. Seeing pictures of Oxford Street and the main shopping areas of London, they're packed, absolutely heaving with people. So also pubs and restaurants in the London area busy. The transport system busy as a result. What you're going to get, a spike in cases. It's obvious. Um, um, some bars and restaurants are sticking to the rule. The rule is, I think it was unclear on my last video because they hadn't really announced what the rule was. But if we're going to a pub or a restaurant, it's a maximum of two people. Previously it was six, but I think it's currently a maximum of two people from the same household. Obviously, if you go into a restaurant, you're going to eat a meal. If you go into a pub, they have to serve you a meal, so it's turning into a restaurant, and that is the rule. And there's a bit of a debate as because the government said a substantial meal, and there was a bit of a debate as to what constitutes a substantial meal. Um, is asking for a bag of crisps a substantial meal? No. A bowl of chips? Probably not. But a substantial meal for one person is not a substantial meal for another person. Again, the government not really clear with their guidelines. And then you had the infamous Scotch egg argument as to whether ordering a Scotch egg constitutes a substantial meal, which in the beginning it didn't, but now apparently it does. It's all a bit silly in terms of this rule. Um, it's also silly because some pubs are sticking to it and others are not, because the hospitality industry has been hit so hard. They're just trying to uh, basically make as much money as they can um, until until they're moved into tier 3 or into another lockdown. So um, like I say, some pubs, if you call them, they'll just stick to the two. They'll say, okay, yeah, you can have a table for two, have a meal, and as soon as you finished your meal, um, you have to leave. Some pubs just haven't reopened because they don't feel they can provide this service. Um, but again, that's leading to a spike in cases, I think. Um, there is talk of London moving in back into tier 3, which is the highest of the three tiers. Um, London has 32 boroughs now. 21 of the 32 boroughs have had a significant rise in cases in the last week. Again, people are flooding to certain parts of London um, to do their Christmas shopping, especially after lockdown. Um, in Greenwich itself, they've closed schools and moved to online learning. The majority of schools are due to break up this Friday, the 18th, anyway. They're not going to close them early, it's too late now. Greenwich are the only ones that have done this, but the government have said if anyone else does it, they'll be in trouble basically. But it's just too late to say you need to close now. So it's going to be the end of the week anyway. The tiers are to be reviewed on Wednesday, the 16th, 2 days from now. But like I said, it's rumoured that London's going to go into tier 3, but there's another rumour in the media saying that it will be by borough. So the 32 boroughs, some may stay in tier 2, and some that have higher cases, like I said, 21 out of the 32 have higher cases, so they might move into tier 3. Again, that could get confusing. Well, we'll just have to wait and see what they say. But Boris Johnson and the government have said they really don't want to put London in tier 3, but it just seems inevitable that that's going to be the case. Certainly leading up to Christmas, and then you have the after Christmas sales, which people flock to as well. So they're going to have to think about that. It's not just Christmas; it's after as well, in the week after Christmas. So we're just waiting to see who's in what tier. But again, with the tiers, if you live in a tier 2 area, or if you can travel into a tier 1 area, and the same if you live in tier 3, you can move into tier 2. You can move around. You're just told to not stay there too long, don't stay the night, and things like that. But if you move into another area, if you're there, it doesn't seem to really make sense about how long you stay and so on. So um, we'll see what happens with the tier system, but certainly some of London will almost likely be in tier 3, if not all of it, but certainly at least half. So that's what we're waiting for. Um, with with the tier system, I mean, it's just a lose-lose situation. If you go into if London say they're going to go into tier 3, then they don't say we're in tier 3 now. They give you 5-7 days notice. So what will happen then is everyone will just flood to those areas to do Christmas shopping, to go to the pub, to go for a meal, to do things that they won't be able to do in 5 to 7 days time, which will lead to a spike in cases. It's just a lose-lose situation that the government can't just seem to get round. They need to really probably come January just say we're in a lockdown for all of January, and we'll review it probably mid to late January. But again, we just have to wait and see. They really don't want another lockdown, but it just seems inevitable because cases are on the rise, and they obviously need to get on top of it. And just because there's a vaccine doesn't mean that it's just going to go away. It's going to take a considerable amount of time for everyone to get that vaccine, as we spoke about earlier. So another thing is there are parts of the UK already in tier 3, which is further north, the Midlands, north east, and northwest. But the problem here is London has a higher rate than the northeast, and it is causing friction between areas where um, people in other areas who had it in Manchester about a month or so ago saying, well, we're in tier 3 as they were at the time, but we have less cases than London, who are only in tier 2. Why is London being favoured? And it's causing friction between areas, which, to be fair, yes, it doesn't really make sense. There are more people in London, so therefore the rules should probably be stricter. But because London is really the hub of the country, obviously the capital, and a lot goes on there, this is the last place they want to put in a lockdown or even into tier 3. But I think it's inevitable at the moment. So again, we're waiting for Wednesday, 2 days from now, just to see what's going to happen. Will London or parts of London move into tier 3? Will there be another lockdown? And will rules change for basically going out, pubs, and so on? We're just waiting for that, really. So that's it for now. Stay safe and have a good Christmas.